Next, benefit sanctions have increased in severity in recent years and can have serious consequences. That's according to a group of MPs who say those who see their benefit reduced or stopped altogether for missing, for example, a job centre appointment, often face an appalling situation, leading them into, quote, debt, rent arrears and sometimes homelessness. More than 1 million people who claim unemployment benefits are expected to meet certain conditions in order to get those payments, such as showing they're looking for work. Around 400,000 sanctions were imposed in 2015. Let's speak now to Jill Thompson. Her brother, a former soldier, died weeks after his benefits were stopped. He'd missed 2 appointments with the government's work programme. Charlotte Hughes' daughter was sanctioned when she was 23 weeks pregnant. And Bob Blackman is here, Conservative MP for Harrow. He supports the work the government is doing to encourage people back into employment. Welcome, all of you. Jill, your brother was on job seekers allowance. He missed those 2 meetings. What was his sanction?
He was sanctioned totally. He lost all the money. He was left penniless. He was an insulin-dependent diabetic, and the DWP were aware of this. So he was left destitute.
So he had no money?
No money, no food. He couldn't chill his insulin, and he died with no food in his stomach.
Right. Obviously, we invited a member of the DWP to come on the programme. They gave us a statement saying our sympathies are with your family. Decisions on sanctions aren't taken lightly. There is a chain of processes we follow before a sanction comes into effect, including taking every opportunity to contact the claimant several times. People can also appeal if they disagree. Your brother did not appeal or ask for a reconsideration of the sanction or apply for a hardship payment.
David wouldn't have been eligible for hardship payment. It's been looked into. We've looked at all the paperwork, and he probably wouldn't have been eligible for hardship payment. And David was a very quiet and private person. He never moaned. He wouldn't have complained. Plus, as well, a letter was received on the 15th saying that David was going to be sanctioned. David was found dead on the 20th.
Do you say there is a link between those 2 things?
David died with no food in his stomach. He died in the middle of a benefit sanction. And diabetes is a serious condition where you need food and insulin. He was sanctioned till the 9th of August. I feel that they should have, before sanctioning him, looked into his medical condition more and taken advice, because it is not it is a serious condition. And I do feel that when they sanctioned him, they put him at risk.
Bob Blackman, as a Conservative MP, the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee who produced this report today, Labour MP Meg Hillier, says sanctions are a blunt instrument that this government has been using. Do you agree?
Well, I think we should recognise that the level of employment now is at a record level. The numbers of people that are disabled, women, young people in work are now at an all-time high. What we were elected to do was to make sure that work always pays and people should be encouraged to work. So I start from that point of view. However, when we come on to situations like this, individuals,
real people.
What should happen is clearly sanctions should only be applied in the most extreme circumstances. This seems to me a case, and obviously each individual case is very difficult to deal with, where a sanction was a blunt instrument was completely wrong. What is important, I think, is that people who are in this position should approach their MPs. If they're submitted to a sanction, they should approach their councillors for help and advice. And one of the things
in the meantime, what do they live off? Because a sanction means that money is either stopped altogether or reduced. While they're appealing, or writing a letter, or waiting for a reply, what do they live off?
Well, now, clearly, what should happen is they should seek advice straight away.
What do they live off?
Well, the clear position is they should seek advice and help.
That doesn't give them money.
No, but an MP can be in a position whereby they can help and get advice and get this sanction overturned, provided...
How quickly?
Well, it can be very quick indeed.
But how quick?
Well, it depends on the circumstances and what has led to the position. Now, the fact
weeks,
of missing...
months?
No, it can be a matter of weeks. or
A matter of
or
weeks?
matter even days.
So what should that person
I
live
understand
on?
the circumstances.
David would have been dead.
I understand the circumstances, and clearly the medical conditions of a claimant should be taken into account fully before any sanction should be applied.
I mean,
in my
that's the
view,
other thing from the report today. Sorry to interrupt,
that's the
Mr.
problem.
Blackman. It suggests that some job centres are referring twice as many people for sanctions as others in the same area. And it's completely inconsistent according to this
It
report.
is completely inconsistent. That is a postcode lottery that clearly is unacceptable and has to be addressed.
Let me bring in Charlotte. Your daughter was 23 weeks pregnant when she was sanctioned. What was the impact on her?
It was devastating, and she's never got over it. She was ill at the time, but we didn't realise. You've got to remember that when you're sanctioning a pregnant lady or anybody, she was feeding an unborn child, okay? So there wasn't only her life, there was a baby's life. And when she told this, and she said to the advisor, look, you're not just sanctioning me, you're sanctioning my baby. They said, tough, get on with it. Now those words were noted. She came out of the job centre crying, had no sympathy whatsoever. She's never actually mentally recovered from that. And I don't think she ever will do.
Mr. Blackman, we have claims today of a peer in the House of Lords clocking on while his taxi's waiting outside in order to claim his 300 quid daily allowance and doing no work. And yet we have stories here of people who are trying to survive on not very much to start with. GSA is 70 odd quid a week, having their money cut off if they miss a meeting. I mean, there are double standards.
Well, clearly that's unacceptable, and I would never defend that.
No.
I mean, I think one of the things
you see that there are double standards.
Yeah, but
here
one
in
of the
our
issues
society.
here, well, there are double standards being applied. One of the issues that we're trying to deal with is a very complex set of welfare positions, and reforming it so that people apply once, they're properly assessed, and they get the benefits they're due. I mean, the fact is that people who have medical conditions, as we're hearing here, should not have sanctions applied. The medical staff, who obviously they are assisted by, should be in a position to help and advise those making these decisions.
Do you agree with this recommendation from the Public Accounts Committee report today? There should be a trial of warnings rather than sanctions for the first sanctionable offence.
Absolutely.
So,
I
somebody
completely
gets
agree
a
with that.
verbal warning.
I think it's absolutely right. And then when they get a verbal warning, then that's the time when they can go to their doctor, they can go to get their MP's help, a counsellor's help. They can get the advice they need so they can make sure that the DWP staff are informed of the problems, and particularly medical problems, that people face. I mean, I have every sympathy with people in this position, and we've got to make sure it's right, so that the people that really need the help, such as your late brother, get the help that they need and are not sanctioned in a completely unacceptable way.
This report, Jill, just to say as well, I mean, there are a lot of criticisms of the sanctions, the inconsistencies, the fact that they've increased in severity over the years. It also points out sanctions do encourage some people into work.
Well, I've heard and seen different reports. Making people destitute and in such a state, how can that be encouragement? I mean, they say sanctions are issued as a last resort. Missing 2 meetings, is that a last resort?
Well, no, it isn't, and I think that's the clear point that I would be making.
I just don't understand that. And plus as well, David didn't have an inquest when he died because he died of fatal diabetic ketoacidosis. So I've asked for an inquest into David's death. It's been refused because they say there's no causal link between the benefit sanction and David's death. I'm now crowdfunding with Crowd Justice, and I'm asked, it's now gone for judicial review. I'm just hoping that by doing this, that showing that what happened to David, the sanctions didn't help, and I hope that this will help to get prevention of future deaths. That's all I'm asking for.
I have another statement from the Department of Work and Pensions. Our sanctions guidance is the same right across the UK. That's, trying to address the inconsistency point. And the fact is the number of sanctions has more than halved in recent years. Sanctions are an important part of our benefit system and are only used in a very small percentage of cases as a last resort when people don't fulfil their commitment to find work. Thank you, Jill. Go on, quick final word.
There's been reports even from the Trussell Trust, the food bank, saying that, their reports show that a lot of what's happening with the food banks was due to benefit problems. And, it is still going on. People are still dying and people are still suffering. And it shouldn't be happening. We're meant to be, the 5th richest country in the world. And yet people are dying. I just think it should stop. And you should just look at, all I want is them to look at the guidance. We've now produced professional medical reports, from diabetes specialists who looked at diabetes, and they show concerns about the guidance. And we asked for there was an independent review asked for in 2015, at a select committee inquiry, and that was refused. That was refused.
Thank you for coming on the programme. We'll follow your progress, your fight on behalf of your
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Charlotte as well. And thank you to Bob Blackman as well. Go on, quick word, Charlotte.
Can I just say, come back at the Minister, that there is no evidence to prove that a sanction encourages people into work. In fact, it does the opposite.
Okay.
When you are sanctioned.
I quoted that from today's report, but
did.
I appreciate your point. Thank you. And you're not a minister yet. I think
No.
you're a Conservative MP, but thank you.
But I am piloting my homelessness reduction bill, which will actually dramatically improve the position for people that are homeless and have faced some of these problems. Now, they shouldn't get to that stage, but at least, I'm taking action to make sure the law is changed so that local authorities will provide the help and assistance that people in this vulnerable position need.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you. Still to come, the standoff in a Hungarian village between its mayor,